thank you for making the time, man. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know Mr. John Lee, he is a successful entrepreneur out of the UK. Super quick story. He came, his parents were immigrants from China to the UK. They started a family restaurant that John had to work for, washing dishes. Wasn't very good at school, getting D grades, but decided that he wanted to turn his life around and not end up in that business. He started getting into real estate, had his first deal. I think it was $85,000 for his first deal, sold that property 2 months later for $185,000.
Wow.
Became a millionaire by age 27, now owns over 200 different real estate properties. He's part of the Wealth Dragons movement. I call it a movement because I think it started off as a book that focused on real estate and entrepreneurship, but it's now expanded into an app where there's tons of courses that you can learn from different mentors on everything around entrepreneurship, including starting a YouTube channel and having a course on that, which I'm excited for.
Yeah.
John, welcome aboard, man.
Awesome, man. It's so great to connect with you finally.
So what I'm super curious about is, how did you make the decision, the choice to say, however long ago, 20 odd years ago, I don't want this life. I'm gonna be a successful real estate investor. Like what, I don't know how old you were when you first started learning about it, but the mindset that so many people have of, here I am washing dishes, doing a boring job that I don't like. How did you make that switch to say, I could be something better?
I think it happened when, sometimes when you work in a job, you always think to yourself, there's gotta be a better way of doing things. And you see all these other people do it, but then you don't really know how to do it. And so it wasn't until I made that conscious decision that I was working in the job and someone pointed the finger and said, you're fired, because I was too good at my job. I was a computer animator, right? So I was working in animation. I was working on some great films. I worked for a company called EA Games, and then I went through a lot of the corporate bullying. And then when I got fired from my job, I said to myself, I'm never gonna let anyone point the finger and say you're fired. And so that's when I took my future into my own hands.
And was real estate the first thing?
Real estate was the first thing, yeah. I wasn't that smart, so I just thought if I can just buy a house at a very cheap price and I sell at a higher price, then it's going to be easy for me to replace my income. So that's exactly what I did.
How did you go? So this is where a lot of people get stuck because they get fired or they're in a job that they hate. But their solution isn't a proactive one, which was yours. Like, I'm gonna make a better life for myself. I'm gonna learn about real estate. Their solution is, well, this job sucks, my life sucks, that boss sucked. How did you have that intuition to lean in on proactivity instead of complaining?
So I remember my friend told me a story once. He said, because I was one of those complainers. In fact, I just did a lesson on this. We call them BMWs, bitches, moaners, and whiners. I was one of those people. So one of the things that I said to myself is I said, you know what, I'm not going to, you can complain about a problem, but what you need to be focused on is, instead of spending your energy in that space of complaining all the time, you switch it into that, solution. So what can I do? So instead of complaining about it, what can I do? My friend told me this story. It's called John and his dog. So John sat in his porch, dog comes out, starts going, oh, starts doing all these moaning noises. Mrs. Smith comes out and says, John, why does the dog keep doing that? And then John says, oh, it's okay, Mrs. Smith. The dog always moans because it's sat on a rusty nail. It hurts enough for the dog to moan, but it doesn't hurt enough for the dog to get off the nail. And when I heard that story, I'm like, oh my God, I'm the dog. I'm the one who's complaining about my job, my life, not getting paid enough. And then so I decided to, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna try it. What do I have to lose?
What was the reaction of the people around you? Your parents, your friends, your family?
Completely, you're insane. Do you know the day I quit my job, my salary was £36,000. And the day I quit my job, I doubled my literally someone gave me a job offer of 60,000 and I turned it down. Because I know that if I take that job, I've got more responsibility, I don't have freedom, and what I want to do is to be able to make an income and also have my freedom to do what I love to do.
So your parents, your friends, your family think you're crazy.
Yep.
You just lost your job. You got an opportunity to double your salary. You said no. Are you moving back home? Do you have enough savings to stay where you are? How did you handle? This is the bridge that most people can't cross. So how did you cross that bridge?
So what I was doing when I was working my job, I was doing a side hustle. So I was going to lots of networking events. So I met an investor and I said to the investor, I said, look, why don't you fund me through this? So I did a pitch and I had to go through a number of pitches, and this guy ended up giving me £20,000. So that when I quit my job, I now had some funds to start, and I sold my car. I sold my Honda S2000 convertible for a beat up, Ford Mondeo. I was driving around that in a couple of years, and I was kind of living on the bare minimum. Like I wasn't, extravagant. I would eat home, I would take my packed lunches out, and I would kind of like cut down on my costs, but focus more on my education. And I started attending more seminars. I would watch YouTube channels. 10 years ago, I put my first YouTube video up there as well. So that kind of helped a little bit. So I was kind of living on a very bare minimum. Because I would say that when it comes to financial freedom, there's three types. You've got, financial freedom, you've got ultimate financial freedom, and you've got ultimate financial freedom. And financial freedom, the normal one is just to make enough money for you to not have to do what you've got to do in order for you to not have to work anymore. So for me, I just kind of got rid of everything, all my liabilities, everything that was costing me money. And now actually I only needed around £1,200 to live. Whereas when I was working my job, I needed a lot more because I had so much luxuries that I didn't, these doodads that was taking money out of my pocket.
So what was the pitch to this guy? You meet this guy at a networking event.
Yeah.
Say I need $20,000 to carry me for the next, 3-6 months.
Yeah.
Really? Is it a loan? Like, how are you gonna pay it back?
Really simple. So I literally, this is literally, and so here's the interesting thing. We never did it in a boardroom like we are right now in my office. We did it in a barbecue. So what I find is when you're pitching, it's always good to do it not within the area of where you expect to be pitched. You want to do it out of that environment. So 4 people went around for this barbecue, and I remember saying to this investor, I said, you know what? It seems like you really want to get into property, but you don't have the time. But you know what? I have a lot of time. So why don't I do this? Why don't you fund the projects? I'll do all the work. I'll find the deals, I'll negotiate them, I'll find the investors for them. You let me do all the work, and you just keep 50% of everything. That was a good deal, because he would have had to put 20,000 into a property deal anyway. But now he's got someone full time doing it for him.
And was that the first 85,000 deal that you made?
No. And so the journey goes on. So to cut long story short, that we made a lot of money and then we lost a lot of money. Well, I lost a lot of money because I was naive and young and I didn't have the right contracts in place. So I kind of got screwed over by that business partner, and then I went to another business partner. So, to cut long story short, you got to be very careful who you are doing partnering with, because almost like everyone I speak to who have different business partners, they also have this whole bad experience, or this business partner did this business partner did this. So, you got to be so careful, really, really careful.
And then again, how do you get off the mat? I mean, a lot of people, they have that, or they hire their first employee, and it's very rare that your first employee works out. And a lot of people then go back inwards and say, okay, I'm never going to hire anybody again. I'm never going to partner with anybody again. I'm just going to do it all myself because at least I know it's going to get done. Right. But
it comes down to mentoring. It comes down to coaching. Like, you've got to have good coaches. You have to have good mentors. You have to educate yourself. Like, you can't expect to learn. If you write the word learn, L-E-A-R-N, take off the L, spells earn, right? So the actual word, the clue is in that word. So I had to go and find mentors. I had to go and get coaches. I had to continually educate myself over and over again in order to get the right education, to have the right strategy, to have the right implementation, and to have someone hold me accountable. If you want to lose weight, fastest way to do it is get yourself a personal trainer.
What I love about your story is every step along the way, every time you've seen this big growth, there's always been some mentorship component to it.
Yeah.
And now you're also, as much as you're still continuing to learn, you're giving back and helping and trying to be the mentor for so many people, which is, at least from my understanding, why Wealth Dragons is here, to try to be that mentor virtually through the app for so many people.
Yeah.
For people, what I love about your mentorship philosophy is just find somebody and say, hey, what are you working on and how can I help you? How can I be of service in what you're doing? What's the process? Is it as simple as find an event that's happening in your area around the thing you want to get into, whether it's real estate or entrepreneurship, and just go up to the keynote speaker and tell him or her that?
That is literally exactly what I did. I mean, you know, before I did this whole, how I got into, people always ask me, how did you get into the film industry? So I worked for a company called Framestore CFC, and they worked on films like Avengers. They just finished the Avengers actually. They did Harry Potter, they did X-Men, all the big multi-million dollar projects. And so how did I get a job there? So when I was at university, I had a student loan. So in the UK, we have something called student loans, but you have to pay for education, right? So I used my student loan instead of on my education at university. I took a trip to Copenhagen and I attended an event called the 3D Festival. And that 3D Festival was all the keynote speeches from all the top animators in the world on all the films like Star Wars, Terminators, you know, all the Disney movies. And literally, I would sit at the back, and after they would finish their keynote speech, I would walk directly up to them and I would say, hey, loved your speech. I'm a student from Hull University. I'm studying animation. I would love to you know, come to your studios to help out in any way I can, whether that's getting you coffee, sandwiches, whatever it is. And you know, from about 10 or 20 different speakers I asked, one of them, his name was Chris Cook, he said yes. So he had me go down there. So there was a company, have you heard of a band called the Gorillas? Being happy and feeling glad I got sunshine. Yeah, so they sing that song, right? So they Passion Pictures, they were the people responsible for all the characters. And so they did all the animation. So I went there for my summer term. So I got a place in London, couldn't afford to live in London. So I stayed with my uncle James. So I literally stayed in his front room for about 3 months. And so in that summer break, every day I would be commuting. I was broke, I had no money. I had to borrow, beg and steal, you know, of my friends and family and literally borrow the money from them just so I could survive. And luckily my uncle put me up, otherwise I've never been able to afford to do that. So I would have to every single day take a 40-minute journey in, but I'd be the first one to show, all the animators would show up, and I would literally like, what do you want for breakfast today? What for coffee? And I would go get everybody tea and coffees. And at the end of the day, all the animators would leave, apart from maybe 3 or 4 animators. I would be there and I was like, what do you want for dinner? I'll go to McDonald's, I'll go to Burger King, I'll bring some stuff back for you. And so these animators start becoming my friends. And then one of them said to me, he said, John, so what are you working on? I said, I'm just here to learn from you guys and I'd love to know how this technology works. And he said, hey, why don't you come down and sit next to me? So he literally booted up the computer, opened up a brand new scene and loaded up the main character from the Gorillas. I'm like, oh my God. And he said, you see this handle here? If you move it like this, the arm moves up. Why don't you give it a try? So every day I was there, I was learning. And by the end of it, I got pretty good. And then, so Chris Cook, who saw my animation, said, oh, you know what? You got a lot of talent. When you graduate, give me a call. So when I graduated, in fact, before I even graduated, I was headhunted because I just kept doing these little things that I learned and just putting them onto forums and people would start spotting them and I got headhunted. Then my first company I worked for was a company called Lionhead Studios, which made a game called Black and White. So in the 90s, that was one of the biggest games that everybody played. And so that's how I got it. And I use the same philosophy now for when I started business. So then I started going into business, networking events. I'd talk to people, but of course now you've got to pay to go into these workshops and conferences. You can't get in for free. So then I had to use the same strategy. My Uncle Chi gave me £350 to attend my first property seminar. And the deal was, you give me the money, the first 2 deals I buy, I give you 50%. And so he's ended up doing really well from that. And that's what I kept doing.
What do you think prevents people from being able to reach out to mentors and create that kind of relationship? I
think people are just like, I have 4 million people following me on social media. And every day it's like, you know, I get the amount of messages I say, give me money, send me some money. Dude, there's no value. You know, I think you've got to give the value like you say. So when I reach out to people, it's like, hey, you know, I've seen this video that you've done, right? Really take interest in what they've done. And that's why I'm so surprised that you know exactly my story on, you know, you've done your homework, which that's what makes you a great interviewer, you know? So I would reach out and I would say, you know, what are you working on that I can help support with? If I know what they're working on, I say, hey, I just saw a post about you talking about this. I would love to be able to reach more people by doing that for you. Can you send me the link so I can help you promote it? Or something like that. So a lot of people are reaching out, asking for things when they should be reaching out, offering things.
So for people who are hitting you up on Instagram, on Facebook, I'm sure the DMs are out of control for people reaching out. What do you need help with right now? What's the biggest thing? Like, how can you add the most value to John Lee's life right now?
Well, right now, so we have an organization here. You can see this is it's late now. Everybody's gone home because it's, everyone leaves work at around 5 o'clock. But this is my organization back here. We actually just listed our company on the stock exchange. In Venice, we did our first IPO this year, and spent a lot of time, a lot of effort doing that. So for a lot of you who love what we do, we created an app. We also created a technology which allows people to build membership sites in 15 minutes. And if any of you guys watching this, you want to help us spread the word, we actually have an affiliate program. So all of you, if you are going to spread the word, you can get paid for it as well. So, and what we actually do as well is give what we call lifetime recurring income. So for example, our software costs $99 a month. So people pay $99 a month, they can create their own membership sites. So if everybody watching, they would like to help us spread that message or find people that want to create membership sites, if someone registers with your link, we'll pay you 20% for life. So now you guys get to earn a recurring income. So that's one way people can help.
And how would somebody break through the noise? You get lots of people who sign up for the affiliates, the company's blowing up, it's amazing, congratulations. How does somebody stand out so that John Lee actually pays attention to them?
Well, first thing is look, end of the day, it's all about results, isn't it? It's like, you can talk all you want, but it's about the results. So I know, like, you guys want to do this, you go to wealthdragonsaffiliate.com, you can register, it's free, you sign up as an affiliate. Then our affiliate program will send you a link to say that you can set up your password, and in there you can get your special links. So now I can see how many people promote it, how many clicks they've got, how many impressions they've had, how many sales they've made. So like, numbers don't lie. So you can tell. So the way you stand out is by working hard, right? There's no such thing as a get rich quick.
Go get John somewhere else. I'm thinking even in our interaction before we did this, you graciously offered to help me with my Facebook and Instagram, and said multiple times, hey Evan, if you ever need help with your Facebook or Instagram, just let me know, and we've got it dialed in. And it's on my part now to take you up on that offer. But my response was then to look at your YouTube channel and make a quick video to say, hey, here's 5 things. I think you should be blowing up even bigger on YouTube. Yeah. Here's 5 things that you can work on to get your YouTube channel up to a higher level. And so even just sharing, the people are watching, if you have a valuable skill that mentor of yours needs, it could be time, right? So as you were saying with your first mentor in real estate, he didn't have the time, you did, so you're gonna go off and do it. But maybe young people have a talent or a skill that the mentor doesn't have that they can help out with as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So so we call it skin in the game through money. Because when people put money, like, do you know how many investors, when we were raising millions of pounds for our company, a lot of investors like, yeah, we'll invest in that company. Yeah, and when the time came, I said, oh, you said you want to invest 100 grand. Here's our bank account details. And I would say a big chunk of those investors that said they would invest did not invest. So you got to put your money where your mouth is and put some skin in the game. That's the first way. The second way is what we call sweat equity. So show me with action and results. Like, for example, you can't see this, but we've got Martin here, who is our video guy. I mean, this guy works so hard in terms of editing, and all the content you see on social media has been edited by this guy. So he's like, when he's at home, he's sending me messages like, hey John, I got this idea for this. We just filmed a whole bunch. We just did a quick tour around, and it's just amazing. You're gonna be joining me for tour as well. So in the next couple of weeks from now, I'll be speaking on stage with Gary Vee and Grant Cardone with 3,500 people. He's gonna be joining me on that tour in Dubai, in Malaysia, and then Bali. So we're doing this whole tour, and it's like he's got to take away time from his family and his girlfriend to do this. So it's doing whatever it takes. That's putting skin in the game.
Talk to me about the decision to go public, not public with your company, but for you to be up front, to be the guy, to be making videos, to hire Martin, to do all this stuff. Why come out and be up front where most CEOs are hiding, they're just building their business quietly? Why does it mean so much for you to get in front of the camera and share a message? Well,
I'm a huge Apple fan. When I read Steve Jobs' autobiography, one thing I learned in there is that you don't do things necessarily for other people. You do them for yourself first. You must first serve yourself before you can serve other people. Like when you're on the plane, when the mask drops, you've got to put it on yourself first before somebody else, otherwise you'll go unconscious. So how you can help other people until you can help yourself? So I went through this whole journey of being skeptical about, oh, you can't do this financial freedom malarkey. I thought it was all BS until I became one of the people that was a participant. So 10 years ago, I read this book. Actually, can you just grab me a copy of my book for a second? Just grab a copy of that book. I want to show you this because on the front cover of this book, a lot of you've probably heard the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. When I read that book, it changed my life. I mean, literally, as soon as I finished it, I was telling everyone who would come into my, within a close proximity, I would say, oh my God, have you read this book? And I was telling people because I had this aha moment that would just change everything. Like, I never knew you can make passive income. I knew about active income, but not passive income. And so when I started learning this stuff and it came true for me, it became my duty to make it true for other people. Because it's so, and I'll tell you, one of the reasons why I went public in this is I wanted to tell people and share my journey. But the reason why we went public and did an IPO is because all of my company right now is transparent. You can't say, oh, you're a scam, you're this, and oh, you say you're a millionaire, but prove it. Well, you can go to the stock exchange, you can look at my share price, and it'll say my market cap, and I own this. Like a lot of people who say they're millionaires, they can't prove it. Yeah, you can lease a Lamborghini, you can do it. There's no transparency. And one of the reasons why I wanted to take a company public was to be fully transparent so no one could say anything. And interestingly enough, I wrote my third book that came out now. I don't know if you can see this, but it says, the front book, the cover, it says endorsed by the co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. So my book just got an endorsement from the co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the Rich Dad Poor Dad book is what changed my life. So it's full circle. This is my way of giving back. That book changed my life. I wanted to do something that can change other people's life. It's not about the money for me anymore. I don't need the money. I can tell you right now, I don't have to do this stuff. I can just stay at home and watch Netflix. But what's the point? What legacy? Like my daughter, she's 1 year old now. My daughter, when she grows up, what legacy am I leaving behind? And to answer your question, Steve Jobs, that whole legacy of Steve Jobs not here, but he's still being remembered. So the question is, how do you want to be remembered? And that's, for me, one of the biggest reasons why I do this.
I'll move my camera over just a little bit because we got...
Ah, that's amazing. I love it.
Put a dent in the universe.
Yes.
What I love about what you're doing is you've had so much mentorship over the years, and now you are the mentor for millions of people. Even though most people you'll never meet one-on-one, I know a lot of your mentorships have been either through a book or through actually like connecting with them and having coffee and working through problems. But now with the internet, you're able to reach millions of people with your message and get it out there.
Yeah.
So the next John Lee is coming to the system can learn from you, even if their parents or their family or their siblings or friends aren't on board with their plans and their ideas.
Yeah.
Learning is so important for you. What are the things that you're most interested in learning now?
I'm interested in learning, well, one really big thing for me is health. So I'm trying to do a lot of one of my routines is going to the gym every day. So I was at the gym this morning, I was at the gym the day before that. And so for me, it's about program my mental health to make myself bulletproof, right? I want to make myself bulletproof. One of the things I'm learning is how do I optimize myself so I'm the most productive. So I've been learning things like yoga, breathing techniques, and theta, outer waves, delta, all these different meditation techniques. I'm learning a lot about diet and nutrition as well. So I'm cleaning up my diet. So I'm, not eating sugary foods, carbs, that kind of stuff. So if you want your body to perform like a Ferrari, you have to put the right fuel into it. If you put rubbish fuel into a Ferrari, it doesn't perform as well as it should do. So I don't want to operate my life at like 80% or 85%. I want to do it 1,000%, as much as I can. I'm trying to figure out a way to get less sleep. It's not working. So I average around 5 or 6 hours. I know sleep's really important, but I started doing some research on sleep, where you can get like 4 or 5 hours sleep of good quality, and then you start napping 15 minutes every 4 or 5 hours throughout the day. So I've been testing that out as well. That seems to work pretty well. But yeah, for me, I'm looking a lot into my health, because health is wealth. No point being the richest person in the graveyard.
So fuel into the Lamborghini instead of this Ferrari, right? Because entrepreneurs buy Lamborghinis, not Ferraris.
Correct, you knew it.
What's the biggest? That's a throwback to one of John's other interviews. What's the biggest thing you've learned? Like, so you're on this health kick now. What's the most surprising thing that you've picked up that you've applied that you wouldn't have believed a year ago?
So one thing's really important. So at my gym, so I go to David Lloyd Gym. They have this machine, and it's kind of like you hold on to it, and it sends electric waves through your body, and it measures body fat, muscle, water. So you'll see here. So I drink one of these every day, right? So the water here is, I think it's 5.8 alkaline. Anyway, it's got something special. So when I drink this water, staying hydrated is key. I mean, right now, last year we ran 117 events. Next year is going to be probably even more than that. Every week I'm traveling to a different country. I just got back from Berlin. We did Slovakia. We did Amsterdam. We're back in London. We have an event this weekend and an event next weekend. Then we're back in Singapore, Malaysia, Dubai, and then Bali, and then back to London again. So hydration is, I didn't know how important water was until I really started hydrating. I mean, like, it's a difference between getting to flow every single time versus hitting that block. Like, why can't I work? Why can't I think straight? How come I'm always getting distracted? So water, having the right water intakes and the types of water, different alkaline levels, I found make a really big impact to me. Second thing is I learned something from a good friend of mine. So I have a friend of mine, he just visited, his name is Jim Quick, and he talked about these different mind peaks and troughs. So he taught this to me. He said, John, you work so hard, like you're working like 12, 13 hour days straight, and like, I want to get into, but sometimes you just gotta, have these peaks and troughs. So what do you mean? He said, when you watch a film, like you always remember the beginning or the end, but you never remember the middle. I said, oh yeah, that's a good point. He said, do you know why? I said, why? And he said, because there's a definite start and an end. Now in your work, if you want to be more productive, you want to go slower and you gain more. So what I've started to do recently is doing these like peaks and troughs. So the more times I take a break, so it could just be like, standing up, doing a stretch, doing a breathing exercise, and then it would just reset my attention. And so that would make me more productive. Sometimes going slow means getting more. So that's another thing so a lot of these like biohacks and these mind hacks, it's so important for entrepreneurs if you want to optimize at that next level. Because here's why. The story of a guy in space, so he spends a year in space and he comes down to Earth and he can't walk. Why? Because he's got no muscle. His muscle just all deteriorates. And so if you think about it, why does his muscle deteriorate? Because it's not having pressure or gravity or resistance on his body whilst he's in space. So the reason why we have to do a lot of this mind stuff is, as entrepreneurs, we're constantly it's like someone every day has got a hammer, is knocking on your head every single day, right? As an entrepreneur, we've got to learn to manage that and manage our thoughts, our feelings, and our state to be able to move through that day. And that's what makes us stronger.
I'm looking forward to the John Lee course on Wealth Dragons, attacking all the biohacks you've learned over the years. Cool. Two last questions. One, if somebody is gonna meet you on tour in Bali or wherever they're gonna be, and they want to impress you, they're gonna show up with the right alkaline bottle of water. After the end, you've just had a crazy long speech, changed the lives of everybody in. What's the non-sugary snack or food that they should also show up with to say, here you go, you might enjoy this?
So I have a very strict routine. So my driver, Sarge Ali, he's been driving me for now 8 years. So he knows my preference. I have a setting. So when I get in the car, so I listen to a radio station called Magic, and then we have it on volume level 1. It can't be too loud, because I got to think, I got to work. I sit on the left-hand side at the back, and I always have a double espresso in the morning, which is in the cup holder. And the temperature is 21.5 degrees, can't be too cold as well, right? So every setting, when I speak on stage, my promoters all around the world that promote me, every time I take a break, they always bring a double espresso with a banana. That's all I have. And then if you go on my desk over there, I actually have a handful of nuts. So I'm always eating like almonds, like just a handful of nuts to sustain the energy. So that's kind of like my default.
Banana, nuts, almonds,
Double espresso.
Double espresso coffee from Starbucks.
Yes.
I love it. Take notes, guys. Take notes. Final message to entrepreneurs watching. They're on the cusp. They know there's more inside them. They feel like this is their time. They're capable of more, but they just need that extra push. What would you tell them?
Look, the sooner you start, the faster you're going to fail, the more you're going to get done. Sometimes you don't know whether something's going to work out or not until you try it. But, you know, I actually did, if I can, let me show you something I just did recently, right? So I just did this new meaning of fear, right? So you've probably heard that false evidence appears real, or face everything and run. What I created was another, trying to find it for you. This is a new meaning of fear that I want everybody to listen to, right? Here it is. So, feel the process, right? Educate yourself to de-risk whatever fear is going to happen, or results or consequences. Take actions to gain experience and reward yourself and feed it back and keep doing this. So this formula, this process that I guess this new meaning of fear that I sort of incorporated over the last 10 years is what I've stuck to. And I always say to people, entrepreneurship, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's what you make of it. So I didn't know that taking my company public would be the right thing, but I knew that if I wanted to be big, every big company has taken the company public. So when we eventually hit 100 million valuation, then we hit $1 billion valuation, that can only happen if you're public. You can't, imagine how much sales you'd have to make to make $1 billion, or even 10 million or 100 million. You can't. It all comes from valuation. So I knew that by my business partner, Vincent Wong, the guy is a genius. He's the one that said, you know what? It's not about making the right or wrong decision, it's making your decision right.
I like it.
Thanks,
John, I
brother.
appreciate all the time today, man. If you want people to, where's their next step? The app, follow you on social, what do you want people to do next?
Yeah, I mean, if you love the content I do, just share it. If you want to become a Wealth Dragons affiliate, go to wealthdragonsaffiliate.com. If you want to text me, if you want my number, we have a text community. Just go back to my Instagram. So I know a lot of you follow me on Instagram. You just text the number, you can join our community. But yeah, if you just keep an eye out, I'm speaking all around the world and literally in Singapore, Malaysia, Dubai. I've been invited to Australia, but I think it's a little bit too far for me to fly. It's about a 20-hour flight, so I don't think I fancy that. But yeah, I mean, I'm hopefully, are you in New York right now?
I'm in Toronto.
Toronto's beautiful. I was.
Coming here anytime soon?
Well, I brought my family there to, when was it? About 2 years ago, and then we went to Toronto. The Chinese food there is amazing, by the way. So good. And then we flew from Toronto down to Vegas because my parents wanted to see Celine Dion in concert. So yeah, but I love it. Yeah, would love to. And next time you're in London, give me a shout.
We'll make it happen.
And we'll do it. Hey, we should get you come speak at one of our events, man.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah, well, next time you're over, let me know, and then we can sort of juggle that. And if anyone's learning YouTube, by the way, definitely check out Evan's stuff. He's like the tips that he's given me. I mean, like, what did you think of Evan's strategies? By the way, I showed your video to Martin. What did you think?
Okay.
Great strategies. Implementing
Alright.
as many as possible.
I love it, man. You have any questions, hit me up on DM. Just I get a lot of DM. Just say I'm Martin from John's team.
Awesome.
Sweet, will do.
Appreciate that, brother.
Cool. Thank you, John.
Awesome.
Appreciate all the love and the time. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, John. Appreciate all the love and the time. Thank you so much.
Start your online. I think done. Good. There we go. So, little sort of summary of that. I think one of the biggest things is entrepreneurship. One of the things you want to focus on is just focus on what you want to do. Don't care about anybody else. If someone thinks it's a stupid idea, all the best ideas that have ever been created, people said were stupid at one time. So go out, test it, try it, do it, get the results, take massive action, and do whatever it takes.